On Sunday, I presented a video. The video is called Untitled Rhetoric That Preaches Revolution. It's in the TV monitor that's in the bottom of the picture. The idea of the piece, that video was done for this specific installation, and the title of the installation, as it reads, Untitled, BLCK, Black, We Wear the Mask. It was in 2008, and this installation shot at the Whitney Museum. Is where I first presented the piece. I wanted to do a piece, well, the story actually begins kind of earlier in my general practice. I make artwork about place. That's my concern. I'm interested in trying to find language and narratives that expands the possibility of place. And by that, it's actually kind of brutal to the inhabitants that live there, because I'm not so much interested in the bodies as much as I'm interested in their voice and acts taken in a place. Part of the idea is, how do we enrich the everyday to make our existence more than dignified but glorious, for that matter. In 2007, spring 2007, the Miami Herald was running an obituary of Turley Smith. Turley Smith happened to be the first black journalist hired by the Miami Herald. The Miami Herald is the biggest newspaper in the city of Miami. At that time, they had more than one. And the obituary mentioned how Turley Smith was instrumental in covering riots that happened in Miami in 1968. So that's the part that was intriguing for me. Riots that happened in Miami in 1968. Miami had some really famous riots in 1980, 1982, but the 1968 one was kind of forgotten. So research started, and it turned out the particular riot, protest, occurred in August 2nd, 1968, which coincided with the Republican National Convention that was happening in Miami Beach. And further research, the newspaper reporting anyway, was similar to what happened in the film Protest, actually. The report was that after a Black Power meeting in Liberty City, youth started to throw rocks at passing cars, and the police came. There was a confrontation. A riot broke out. So that's the extent of the reporting. I tried to find more research and I couldn't find it, so I moved on. So when I wanted to do a work, my proposal was, what would be happening in a room where artists are based? Let's say they're based in Liberty City, which happened to be what the neighborhood where the riot was. And let's say their studio happened to be just outside the doors of where said riot happened. What will be happening in their studio in light of the National Convention, Republican National Convention coming to their city and having the world press present in their city? And also, how do they manage to process things that they see on their television every day in the news? So, which happened to be the video I showed on Sunday. I can't really show you today, you have to take my word for it. But the images in the video were pretty much of news footage from 1965 through 1968. And the news footage that I selected focused more on ideas of protest movement worldwide. So there are images of both organized protests all over the world, for that matter, student movement, workers' protest, feminist group, civil rights. How do they process this information in an attempt to make artwork out of it? That was the gambit that I set up for myself, and this was the work that came out of that. The black signs are stylized protest signs that I came up with. The one on the way on like this, your left, It reads something to the fact, actually, there's another thing I should say, geographically. The city of Miami is quite large, and there's the mainland of Miami, and there's the island that is Miami Beach that we all know as South Beach, and et cetera, et cetera. At that time, Miami is also is in Florida, which is in the south of the United States. In the south had Jim Crow laws was still active at the time. And Jim Crow laws are just brutal generally, but in Miami, the informalness of it, I should say, dictated that black folks and Jewish folks couldn't own property in Miami Beach. But Miami Beach is a resort town. It has a lot of hotels, and all of the United States, and for that matter, all of the world come there on vacation. So even though black folks work in those hotels, even though black entertainers would perform in the lounges of those said hotels, but in the evening they'll have to go back to Miami mainland. Neighborhoods like Liberty City, neighborhoods like Overtown are predominantly black neighborhoods. And that happens to be where a second set of entertainment will occur. So an act like I'm trying to think smaller, because larger act, or I would say like a Duke Ellington, have clout. Duke Ellington can say wherever he wants, but a small act like I don't know, a 60s R&B band, no, they'll definitely cannot stay in Miami Beach. They'll have to go back to the mainland. So that brings the opportunity for them to do a second concert in a black neighborhood in the mainland. So that also contributed to neighborhoods at Liberty City being truly the entertainment of the city, because it was known that they will do a first performance of Miami Beach and a second performance of Miami Beach. So Liberty City was kind of active. The point being, Liberty City isn't a stifling place, technically. It has, at least pre-68 anyway, it still has the opportunity for Miamians to mingle, Miamians to browse. And so Liberty City, as the name would imply, embodies freedom in it, even though it's technically a segregated neighborhood. And so my sign, on the other hand, with as much irony as possible, reads, "Welcome to Liberty City, this summer of '68, our summer of freedom and civil disobedience." So with the protest sign, well, at least the stylized protest sign as artwork, it brings in the ideas of the summer's freedom busing from the north to establish, to help people vote. That was in the video I showed yesterday. It began with Martin Luther King. The quote actually is from Stockholm to Selma. Martin Luther King goes to help Alabamians register to vote. And so in the one protest sign, I'm trying to bring all that together. The two black ones in the middle, they're actually more of a bastardized quote from Martin Luther King's last speech, which, because this image is so small, I don't remember it from the top of my head, but I believe it says, "I've replaced the I that Martin Luther King used with a we." So it reads, "We've been to the mountaintop, we've seen the promised land, we don't fear anyone, we wear the mask." And the last one, all the way on the other side, it reads, "Black revolution means justice for all," and that's that last sign. That last text actually is also a bastardization of a Chester Himes essay that talks about the civil rights movement and the idea of black power and the idea of black revolution, that it's really a restorative act. It's in the tradition of both the French Revolution, the American Revolution, a nod to the Haitian Revolution, and American Pledge of Allegiance that phrase, justice for all, is central, right? Everyone says it every day. But the idea that a black revolution is necessary to restore that. A black revolution is what truly will enable justice for all. So I think that was that was a great find in that essay. And the other works in the walls are really, they're artwork at the end of the day. They're drawings and prints. They're based on more images, more text, which I guess I can fill through questions later on. But thank you.